in the crypto market right now. In this video, I want to dissect a few different variables piece by piece. I want to go through Bitcoin technical analysis because Bitcoin chart is looking really strong at the moment. I want to go through quickly Ethereum, a bunch of different altcoins because some altcoins are starting to perform well, but they're still not really outperforming Bitcoin. Bitcoin dominance is still on the rise, which is something that you need to really consider moving forward. And is something that you definitely need to address. And then I want to look at a few other variables externally that can have an impact on the crypto market and the Bitcoin price. Overall, I think we're in a really bullish spot right now. Obviously, Bitcoin is at 67K, went up to 69,600, I think. Had a really good pump the last couple of weeks, which is pretty bullish. Probably even just the last week. It's just shown some really good strength. Altcoins are showing well. Ethereum starting to finally move. So all signs sort of point to like we're ready for October, which is not what we experienced in the start of October. We've spoken before about Q4 just being a really bullish time for crypto, and also Q1 following the election and also being the halving year. It's just everything's sort of aligning, but Bitcoin's at 67K, and to be honest, it doesn't feel like a lot of people are actually that bullish, which is a really good sign. The fact that we're like at 67K and the sentiment isn't that we're overbought or overpriced or anything like that. It seems like we're at a pretty good spot. So the first thing we will look at is obviously the Bitcoin price and do some technical analysis. Straight away, we've obviously been in this channel for such a long time now that to finally have a break it's pretty important and it's pretty significant. So obviously we're broken out and we've come back down. This line, by the way, it can be stretched a little bit because it doesn't fit perfectly, and like a small change in this line actually has a big move here. But the clear thing is that we have broken out and we've come down to retest. It's just a matter of time to see like what happens to, like, do we just fall straight through, which is always a possibility, or can we actually see a bounce and really just take off out of this and start this upward trend, which we saw late last year, earlier this year, with these big moves that constantly occurred into small accumulation and then a big move again, small accumulation. And we basically did this 4 or 5 times until we finally hit like 73K. And then obviously we had to move sideways for quite some time. So yeah, this break's obviously pretty important to get out and then have this retest. This is something I'll be watching very closely. If you follow my Twitter, I'll definitely keep updated as well what happens here. If we do just break through, or if we do get a nice strong bounce, that'd be pretty good. Before I get to altcoins, I'm going to talk about probably like 3 or 4, maybe 5 altcoins. Before I do that, I want to talk about Bitcoin dominance, because Bitcoin dominance is super important. And to be honest, it's not something that I've considered for the longest time. Like it wasn't something I would look at, a year or two ago, not to a heavy degree, but now I look at it quite a bit. I think it's definitely an important thing. And the key takeaways for me when I look at Bitcoin dominance is I say, okay, well, firstly, Bitcoin dominance has been on the rise for just the last year, 2 years. This is like nearly 700 days. So it's been on the rise for quite a while. I think Bitcoin's an integral part of everyone's portfolio. Like obviously you want to make a lot of money through altcoins and you have that opportunity. They're higher risk, high reward, but Bitcoin is just such a staple for any portfolio, crypto portfolio, in my personal opinion, not financial advice, but I just think Bitcoin is just constantly performing really well. It doesn't have those huge fluctuations that you see with altcoins, but obviously you don't have that potential to have like a 30x, 40x return. You'd be lucky to get a 10x over like 5 or 10 years, right? So it's just the trade-off that you have there. So that's the first takeaway. The second takeaway is when you look at Bitcoin dominance, especially this period right here, there's a huge plummet, right? In this period, a huge plummet from like 61% down to 39%, pretty low. And if you don't know, this is basically the altcoin season of the last bull market. And it clearly just shows that this move happens very sharply. It's money is obviously rotated from Bitcoin into altcoins, or from Ethereum into altcoins, you could say. And when that happens, altcoins skyrocket. Obviously, we saw this last time. A lot of coins just went absolutely crazy, 5x, 10x. If you pick some good ones, you get 20, 30x's, right? And it all happens in this very short period of time, which means that when you're buying altcoins, sometimes they may not be outperforming Bitcoin. They still might get good returns, right? Bitcoin could be up 5, 10%, and your altcoins might be up 2, 4, 6%, something like that. Some days they'll do better, some days not. But when this happens, and most people would think that this will happen, and we'll see like an altcoin season, it'll happen rapidly, most likely, and it's something to consider. And we've seen it before as well down at this period here, back in 2017. It's the same thing. It was a straight correction for Bitcoin dominance, and yeah, we saw altcoins rally, right? So it's pretty important, and it's something to definitely take into consideration. You could also look at how long after the last halving did this occur. So the last halving was 2024, but the one before that was 2020 May. It was around this time, and it's around this period right here, and you can see it was about 300 days. It's close to a year of sideways movement, and then it finally broke down, which indicates that altcoin season. So it's about a year. And when we go back to the Bitcoin chart, you can see a pretty similar thing. 2020. So here, May 2020, there was sideways movement for about 170 days. And then Bitcoin started to move up. So Bitcoin started to move up. Not long after that, altcoins really took off, right? And then we look at the current cycle where April was obviously the halving. So I'll zoom in a little bit. Make this clear. So the start of April is about here, and we've moved sideways for 200 days. So that 200 days is sort of the equivalence of what we saw last cycle, where we moved up a little bit, but it wasn't a massive move considering the move that was about to come. It was a pretty similar 200 days of sideways movement. Bitcoin took off, and not long after, altcoins took off. And the reason I look at this is because a lot of the moves in crypto are obviously based off previous cycles. And you look at the four-year market cycle theory, right? That's the way a lot of people move and make decisions. Is why so many people are so bullish post-halving and coming into this election as well, because of the historical moves that we've seen following those events. So you've got to look at patterns and sort of look at those to make somewhat guided predictions about what's going to come. And given that it was about 170 days of sideways before a huge move up, and we're now looking at 200 days, it's a pretty similar time frame, and we've had that breakout, could indicate that we are now about to see a similar move to what we saw at this period of this huge rally, and then the altcoins took about another 100 days before they really took off as well. So it's just something to really consider for when altcoins might seriously take off and have the altcoin season rally, and also for when Bitcoin can finally break out of this trend. So again, you just got to watch Bitcoin over the next few weeks, or probably even few days, to see what happens for this, if we're able to break this. Firstly, I want to look at a couple of the variables I want to talk about, and then I'm going to get into a few altcoin picks at the end. I want to go through probably 4 or 5. The first thing I want to talk about is obviously the election, which I've been talking about quite a bit because I think it's just super important. And Trump's up even more. He's at 64.4%. He obviously hasn't, got in the bag yet. It does look like Trump is going to win though. 64% is, it's pretty high. Harris has a 35% chance of winning. As I said before, it doesn't seem like it's a big issue if Harris were to win. It doesn't seem like either way, depending on which party wins, it's actually going to influence the market too much. But there's a couple things to consider. Firstly, Trump is obviously pro-crypto. He went to the Bitcoin convention, gave a speech. So did RFK Jr., who's on his side. And they've both stated that they want the US to actually accumulate Bitcoin. So it's a pretty big direct variable that will, directly influence the price. So very bullish news when that came out. But obviously people didn't know who was going to be elected then. Still isn't confirmed, but it's something to consider. The more important thing, in my opinion, is that knowing who's going to win, having clarity over who's going to win, positively influences the market, because people are no longer sort of scared about who's going to win, even though it doesn't matter who wins exactly. Just having more clarity on who's more likely to win, and right now it's becoming clearer that Trump is going to win, then the market can sort of go, okay, well, we don't have to worry about this anymore. It's already sort of decided, it's done, and that creates it could positively influence the price, which is what we've seen the past week. Obviously, you can't say for certain that that's what's been pumping that price. I understand that, but I think just having that clarity, as opposed to them being at, head to head for this long period of time, at 50-50, who's going to win, how's it going to influence the market, you sort of have to think, well, hang on, I don't know if I want to be in the market if there's all these policies getting thrown around and all this kind of stuff. So this is pretty good in my opinion. Next thing to look at is the Bitcoin ETF inflows. Just quickly touch on this. Obviously, 294 million inflows today. The inflows the last week have just been huge. This is obviously was just a huge catalyst, getting the ETFs, and they've just been pumping so much money into the market. It's been just incredibly bullish. The last thing I want to touch on is Google search terms. I feel like this is like relatively important. You look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin really is not searched that much right now. It was back in March 2024, which if we look at March, that obviously was all-time high, which, when Bitcoin breaks the all-time high, you'd expect that. So if we're able to break it in like next week or two, I would imagine this would probably skyrocket a bit and people will search it again. And then it sort of would be interesting to see what happens after that, if it maintains or if it drops off again. Because obviously we saw a peak and then it dropped off a bit, and then obviously we made a new all-time high, picked up again back in the last cycle. And then Bitcoin search history just dropped heaps. So it's still really down right now at 27. That's like very low. And then if you look at crypto, this is like super low. I actually don't understand. Even at the all-time high, it was 38. But back here is, obviously at 100. It was way more search. Right now, it's just not search much. I mean, it could be an indication like retail isn't here. That's sort of like what it partially suggests. But in my opinion, it's bullish that we're at 67K. And like people aren't searching for crypto. People aren't searching for Bitcoin. Like a lot of people actually aren't here yet. And when mass adoption occurs and more people, you get more people into the crypto space, I feel like these numbers will explode and you'll have more people watching YouTube videos and learning about crypto and buying in and getting involved and obviously pumping the price. So I think this is just a really bullish thing and sort of a nice thing to look at to see how mainstream is crypto right now. How many people are looking at it? Like how many people are actually interested in it? So definitely something that I find pretty fascinating. I think it's important. Onto some altcoins. We obviously have Ethereum in this symmetrical triangle right now. Did break out, came straight back in. But Ethereum's been not performing that well recently. Everyone sort of knows that. But I still bullish on Ethereum, of course. I have a pretty good chunk of Ethereum and I think it's going to perform well. So as I said, I'll wait for this breakout and then it's in this bigger sort of descending broadening channel, I guess. So Ethereum, I think it's just, hasn't been performing well, but I think hopefully it will. Solana, I think Solana's obviously been doing really well. It's at like $165. Was in this bearish pattern and broke out. We had two fake outs, which is never ideal. But so many hits on the resistance line, so many touches on the support line. It was a clear trend. We broke out recently, and this is pretty cool. We had the breakout, we came down, confirmed the breakout, and we're now on the upwards trend. I think that's really good to break out of a bearish pattern and then to head upwards. I think Solana is obviously a top pick. Performed very, very well in the start of the market. So as with all those altcoins, these are coins that did perform well early in this cycle, and I think will progress and sort of perform well later in the cycle. I think that's sort of the idea that most people tend to follow. So Solana, yeah, definitely performing well, showing huge strength. I think this will head higher, break its all-time high, which is at around $260, and then head higher. I think Solana's a top pick for most sort of portfolios. I think most people are pretty bullish and think this coin should go on to do really well. So pretty obvious pick. We have Injective. This is a coin I'll talk about quite a bit. We had the breakout to confirmation on the support line and we're heading up. I think this is just, in my opinion, no brainer. Performed very well early in the cycle, had this breakout, and then it's just a very clean chart. So look, I mean, we might come down and touch the line again. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully we start this upward trend and Injective goes straight through all-time high, then hits triple digits. That's the goal. You have FET, which actually hasn't been performing that well recently, which is very interesting. But something to definitely notice with FET is you've got to look at how quickly it can pump. So this was I want to get the exact dates on this. This is when it performs really well, right? So it had already pumped 150%, right? It was up 150%. And from there, FET went and pumped 160%, so 2x in 23 days. Then it pumped 63% from there in 9 days. And then pumped 74% there in 7 days, which is just insane. Like, this is ridiculous, right? The total of this was 480%, like nearly a 6x in 34 days. Huge moves very quickly. So it's something to always look at when coins are able to produce these kind of results, and just, it basically smashed through its all-time high, which was at like $1.10, I believe, and went straight through way higher. And then finally we saw the correction, and then recently, pretty much the same chart as we just saw with Injective, right? Descending channel, broke out, came down, and hit the support line twice, exactly as Injective, and now it's just trading sideways. So hopefully it moves up and just, yeah, straight through all-time highs as well. We also have Prime, Echelon Prime. This is a gaming coin, an AI gaming coin. Two huge sectors that ran very well early in the cycle and are still performing very well. Fet's obviously an AI coin, and Injective is also in that AI category. So these obviously, AI is just a front running sector at the moment, performing really well. Prime is a bit interesting. Like, we had this big move, we broke through, but then we came back down and then had resistance and not showing strength, which is not ideal. But we also had a resistance there as well. You could look at. So not showing strength, which is, yeah, not ideal, but this is still a topic of mine. I think this will perform well. It was up at $27. It's now sitting at $8. I think it could definitely get back up there pretty quick. So definitely a good pick. Lastly, we have Stacks STX. So Bitcoin layer 2. This is a really strong project. Really performs well. Showed great strength. Similar to FET, had these very sort of sharp, rapid moves. I mean, this was 86%, 10 days, 70%, 10 days, and then 90%, 16 days. So pretty fast moves. And then obviously, as these altcoins all have very similar patterns, as you can probably see. Descending channel breakout, confirmed the breakout, went higher. Now it's putting in higher highs, higher lows, pretty strong signs, potentially a channel here forming, but not too worried about that. Yeah, it's just not to see a breakout of this trend and start this trend higher. So STX, I think, is a really good project, something that I'm bullish on, got a good holding of it, and I think it can get, I think it can probably get $10, to be honest. I think STX is definitely a good pick. So these are sort of the altcoins that I'm looking at. All of these performed just really well early in the market. If you were able to buy the dips, you probably have done pretty well. Probably a good idea. Some of these are still like quite low. If you look at, I mean, even STX is $1.80 and it went up to $3.80. So still a 2x from its all-time high. Prime still a fair way off as well, obviously. Over a 3x to all-time high. FET, pretty similar. 2.5x. Injective, 2x. And Solana's not too far off, actually, because it's been performing pretty well. Only a 20% to its previous local top, and then the all-time high was a bit higher than that. So these are the coins that I'm sort of looking at. That's sort of my consensus of the market. As I said, I just think the current market is in a really good position, and yeah, pretty excited to do more videos, talk about more coins, maybe make some more in-depth videos, and then keep these videos of like the actual Bitcoin trend, because I think obviously Bitcoin just dictates the market so heavily. So it's important to just constantly provide insight on where Bitcoin is at and how that's affecting the market. So might do some live streams as well, sort of discuss some of this stuff. So if you enjoyed the video, let me know in the comments, guys. Let me know, what coins you bullish on, what you think Bitcoin's up to, ETH, Solana, all these altcoins, whatever. Let me know in the comments. I do appreciate you guys watching, and yeah, enjoy.